So what is PER? PER stands for Practical Experience Requirement, and it's the requirement.
Sorry, Nikki, would you like to share your screen?
I would. I totally would. Let me see. Here we go. CIMA Simplified. Oh, okay. So what Shweta said, this is part of our CIMA Simplified series, and this is day 4, and we are doing PER. Okay, so what is PER? It stands for Practical Experience Requirement, and it's the requirement for you to record your relevant experience. Your CIMA qualification really consists of an academic component, it's your subjects and your exams, and a practical component, and that the PER represents your practical component. So once you've successfully passed your strategic level case study exam, students often think, oh, now I'm a CIMA certified CGMA. However, after you've done all your exams, there's still one more step that you must take before attaining that status, and you must submit a successful CIMA PER application. Personally, I feel it's really important that you don't view your CIMA PER merely as like a final obstacle on your journey towards becoming CIMA certified. Instead, and it's tricky because I want to tell you, how to frame your mind, how to think about it, but it's really an opportunity for you to instill complete confidence in your employers regarding your skill set for this role, for the role that you're applying for. And CIMA is a widely recognized and esteemed qualification, and your CIMA PER serves as tangible proof that you have met the industry's required standards. Okay.
It's a lovely way of thinking about it.
It is, hey? Okay. So a couple of things that you probably want to know. You can start recording your experience the minute you've passed your management case study. The template isn't available on your CIMA dashboard until you've passed your management case study. Cool. However, you may want to know what it looks like and to prepare for it, so we can show you how to do that. So we say you can review the PER criteria prior to passing the management case study. There's never any harm in knowing what it is going to be like. Personally, I wouldn't worry about PER until you've at least passed your operations case study. In the beginning of your studies, if you're at certificate level or operations level, I prefer that you just focus on your studies. Just make a little bit of headway with your exams before you start worrying about the experience you need. So to review the criteria in the meantime, you can download. Okay, so to review the criteria before you can actually access it on your CIMA dashboard, you can download the CIMA PER guide in a link that we will provide in the chat. I think I've also may have an example of it here. No. Okay. The guide, let me just see if I can. Okay, so what the CIMA guide looks like, it tells you these are the things you should be able to do. It is really can-do statements. So it says, can you combine finance and analysis skills and business insight to support the creation of a business case? So then you know that at some point they're going to ask you for evidence that you are able to do that. It might not, you might never encounter that, and then that won't be the evidence that you provide. But in case along the way, you are then find yourself, oh, now I'm actually combining my finance and analysis skills and my bit of business insight to support the creation of a business case. Oh, wait a minute, I remember that I saw that. And now I can document or just make a note to remember that this was something interesting that they might ask me in my PER. Okay. This might now be as clear as mud, but not to worry, we're really going into the into the meat of the presentation where we show you step by step what is required. So all I've dealt with now is if you want to have a sneak preview, go and look and go and read it, look at the can-do statements. This is what you would do if you are going to now do your PER. Your PER application is completely online. There are 3 components. Let me just annotate. Love a little bit of drawing. There are 3 components. The one is your employment history. The other one is work activities. And the other one is your skill and behavior. Your employment history, you need to do you need to have 3 years of employment history. Your core work activities, here you choose 3 of the 5. You can pick the ones that are you feel you've got the best examples for. And for skills and behavior, you must do all 5. Okay, now we're going to show you each component. We're going to break each of these down. Just clear my drawings. Go here and go here. Okay, pick up my pen again. Okay. So under employment history, which was the first step, you will see the white block on your left. This is what your screen will look like. And on the right is our example. Okay, you see that it asks you for your company name, and you can see that it asks you for your role and whether it was part-time or full-time and the start and end date. And then you get to the summary of your role and responsibility. The summary section is where the meat is, of course, and this is where you're required to provide a brief overview of each of your roles and their responsibilities, and also an overview of the organization you've worked for, their purpose, the products, the sector, and a link to the organization's website. You can load one, if you've worked for the same organization for 3 years, you just do one of these. If you've worked, so I said like one of these white blocks, you just do one of this. But if you worked at a business and it was for 18 months or it was for 1 year, and then after you've submit this, they'll say, do you want to add more? Then you add another employer and you add more, and then you add another employer and you add more until you've covered 3 years. If you scroll down, which I can't do now, but when you are completing the form, you scroll down, there's a section, there's a space for a relevant supervisor name and email. What happens is that they will, when you submit this, they will automatically send an email to your supervisor.
Yeah, I think we'll chat about supervisors in a second.
Fantastic.
Okay, so I just want to show you the good example of employment history and how it works. So I just want to point out some important things on the right. So what you are able to see here in this example is that it's not a bullet point list. It's not a list of bullets, but it's also not a lengthy drawn out explanation. It's somewhere in between the two. So it's advised to avoid using only bullets when explaining this section. There's
say it says bullet, financial analysis, bullet, time,
capital investments, bullet.
Yeah, do.
Yes.
That's not going to fly.
That's not going to cut it.
There's a nice fat explanation here within a bullet.
There's actually a word count of max 100 or recommended word count of 150 to 200 words for this section. So we recommend that you use the full word count to properly explain your role and to give a full and clear description of your employment history. So personally, I find that these bullet points are quite well used in the example. So just make sure that you don't just list your bulleted points. And you want to start by stating your role. So you can see there, senior financial analyst, the company that you're working for. You pop in your dates that you were in this role at this organization. And then you start there. Thanks, Nikki, for the annotation, which is your company overview. Then you move.
Sorry, not history overview. Sorry.
Yes, it's just a bit of a company overview. And then you start underneath that stating your role. So in all of this employment history and in this PER, it is what you have done. You personally, not the team or the organization. Most of the way you need to speak is I did this, I did that, I was responsible for. Okay.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, so now you get rid of all of this. And now once you have completed one or enough of these to cover your 3 years, we are going to move on to the next section. Okay, so just to tell you where you are, we've now done how to do your employment history. We're now going to look at how to do your core work activities. And I believe you needed to do 3 out of 5 of these. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Core work activities. Okay, so I will show you briefly what it looks like. You have to, when you just do your core activities, it asks you for the situation, then you describe that, then it asks you for task, then it asks you for the actions. Now I'm going to ask you for your situation first, then it asks you for your task, ask for actions, and it asks for the result of the situation. Okay, so this is called the STAR methodology.
You'll see it come up a number of times in the PER guide document. So wherever they refer to STAR or use the STAR template, they're talking about this STAR methodology.
I just wanted to say it's also a handy way to complete your case study, to know I start with a situation and then up to the result, but then it's probably too late because you've already passed it. Okay, but nonetheless, so you start with a situation. So you think of a situation that is relevant, significant enough, and at the right level of challenge. Okay. Then when you get to the task, in the task, you highlight the specific tasks, you focus on your individual role and your responsibility without delving into the roles of what other team members did, because CIMA is primarily interested in assessing how you personally demonstrated the core activity or the skill behavior which you have selected. So, okay, so I just need to take a little bit of a step back because my brain works slightly differently. So it says in here, what was this activity? Anyway,
Action?
No, sorry, I'm confusing myself. You need to select 3 of 5. What were they again? Let me just.
Your core
I have
activity?
your core activity. I'm gonna say I have evaluated opportunities to add value. Do I have a good example of that? Do I have a good situation I can describe? I've implemented strategic decisions. Do I have a good example of that? I have a good example of how I manage performance and cost. Oh yeah, remember that one time when I did this or that. I have measured performance, or I have managed internal and external stakeholders. You need to sit and think, which one am I going to pick? Then when you pick that one, you now have to follow the STAR method. You have to describe that situation, okay? Then you have to describe the tasks you did when you did that. Then you have to explain the actions you took in this situation. That's in order to demonstrate your ability to perform the core activities or the skills and behaviors. So you have to highlight these actions to substantiate that you're proficient. Okay, and then finally you end with your results. So when describing the outcome of this situation, it's important to articulate the impact of your actions and how it contributed to the organization, and you emphasize the direct influence of your action on the overall results. Okay, so far this is just theory. I'm going to show you how it works in practice. Okay. Cool. So we're going to pick one of these, and I'm going to talk through the STAR method.
Okay, so you can see there that on the left, it's got activity details. You select your core activity from the drop down, and it's got the 5 activities there for you to choose from. So here we've selected I've evaluated opportunities to add value. Okay, under the situation, you now need to briefly outline the context of the example you're going to use. So that involves the evaluation of an opportunity to add value to the organization. So then if you look on the right, this is what you would insert. Equipment maintenance at our production plant has been outsourced for many years. The contract with the external provider of the service was due for renewal by the end of the financial year. Rather than renewing the contract with the same provider, senior management decided to consider other possibilities. The possibilities to be considered were renew the contract with the existing provider, contract with a new provider, or set up our equipment maintenance team wholly internal to the business. So you can see that's quite clearly just giving a little bit of a background situation, some context to this example that you're now going to use. Okay.
Cool. So that was S, situation.
Yep. So now moving on to tasks and actions. So in situation, we've given an overview. Now tasks are getting more specific. And here they want you to now describe your personal role in the situation. So here again, you can see on the screen here, I was asked to create a business case for this decision. The business case needed to include a forecast of the likely costs of each option for the next 5 years and an evaluation of each option on a cost-benefit basis. My specific responsibilities were to, and here you go XYZ, document the quantity of the cost of each option, quantify any potential cost savings, create the business case drawing on information relevant operational managers gathered. Okay, so you can see it's not rocket science, but it is quite a nice methodology for you to follow. CIMA could not be more specific and with what they're asking for here. Okay, so then moving on to, now we've covered situation and tasks. They quite set the scene, very to the point, very succinct. The actions now detail what you did, the actions that you took on these tasks required. So this section is now going to obviously probably be much longer than in the situation in the task section. Things to note, can't stress this enough, I rather than we, and make sure that you are linking back the actions to the tasks and to the core activity, which was you are trying to show them how you evaluated opportunities to add value. So make sure you keep linking it back to that core activity that you are required to show your competency in. Okay, so now we've done S, T, and A. Now let's move on to results. Thanks. Okay. So now, once you've explained, given your situation, outlined the tasks, documented your actions, you now need to let everybody know what was the result. Did you do your job properly? And so here we go. How can your actions, how did they provide insight? How did they influence decisions in senior management or decisions taken in the organization? So in this instance, the candidate helped management understand the impact of renewing the existing contract and to bring the service in-house. Okay, so they've analyzed those three options and then they've made a recommendation, and then here the company went with one of the recommendations. So again, it's not too lengthy, this section, it's just the result of your actions. Okay, and there you can see at the bottom, PER supervisor for this core activity that you'll link in a second. So this is where you would, which we will chat about. Oh, sorry. Oh, there. Yes, sorry. In a couple more slides, I'll talk about the role of the PER supervisor. Sorry, it's not here. I'm just checking my script. Perfect. Okay.
No worries. Okay, great. So we've done how to do the employment history, and we've done how to do 3 out of the 5 work activities and to use the STAR model over here. And the last thing they want is skills and behavior. So you have to provide examples of how you have displayed these skills and behaviors. Okay, so I'm going to go to that section and show you how that works. This is also in the STAR method, I see. Okay, hang on a second. So this is a good example of how to report on the required skills and behavior. And in this example, we're responding to the growth mindset. So you can see here, the selected skills and behavior is the growth mindset. Again, you need to use the STAR response methodology. When you do the situation, pick something that is relevant and it is significant enough and it's at the right level of a challenge. Okay. Try to give a specific example of a situation where you've demonstrated a growth mindset on a personal level. Here, the focus is on you. So I just want to write it. The other one was, how did you influence the business? This is the focus is on you rather than on the business. Again, both the situation and the STAR, the S and the T, are shorter than the actions and the results at the end. The situation and task sections just again set the scene so they're succinct and to the point. So here's a good example of a response. The candidate explains how he or she took on an extra assignment as a secondment to the finance reporting team. The task was to ensure the tangible non-current assets and lease balances were correct at year end, preparing the first draft of the notes on the AFS and working with the external auditors. So this was SNT, and next we do STAR. Okay, this was situation, ask for a secondment, and this was the task at hand. Happy with that? Okay, grab my mouse. Cool. Now we get to the A, the action, and again here you can see it is a lot longer. So here you can see a good response, and notice that it's much longer than the situation and the task response. And you can also see again, I rather than we. You can also see how this candidate explains the secondment, that it's not common practice and they had to apply for it specifically. So they're a little bit tenacious now. They got their line manager support and they had to do an interview and they eventually noted and said, oh, we're quite impressed with this person's tenacity. They wanted this and they fought for it. Then this person goes on to explain that the most challenging bits, what the most challenging bits were, and goes into detail about all the tasks he or she has performed on secondment. And you will see that it all links back to growth mindset in terms of taking ownership of one's own development. Okay, then the last thing after A is then your, is the R. Okay, the results. Sorry, I just need to keep on switching between the drawing tool and the mouse. And here the candidate explained what they've learned, what information experience they've gained, how it changed his or his approach, how the company deemed it of value, etc., etc. And remember to just, although this is about you, to just also reference the benefit to the business. Okay, and then here we've got this PR supervisor who can then attest to that. Cool. PR supervisor? Oh, Shirasi, you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you.
I was wondering where you were with your insights on the PR
and I'm
supervisor.
and making commentary as you go along. Sorry. Okay, you want to click to the next slide? We're now going to cover how to get your supervisor on board. So PER supervisors will be asked to sign off time spent in a relevant role or provide assurance of the tasks relating to the skills that you have now selected. Your PER supervisor will verify that this PER submission is an accurate account of your experience. So they provide a crucial role in providing assurance to CIMA that you've achieved the required experience and you've met the required standard. Okay, so here's hoping that you're all on very good terms with your supervisors or your potential supervisors. All roles that you've used to demonstrate your competencies must have a supervisor stated. So as you go through, you saw at the end of each core activity, you have to list a supervisor. At the end of each skill or behavior, you have to list your supervisor. Okay, the supervisor must have direct knowledge of your work and should ideally be your manager, somebody you work very closely with, somebody who has experienced your achievements. Okay, you can only submit one supervisor against each section of your employment history. And if you had 2 or more supervisors that you'd like to verify your work experience, you'll need to break down your experience and allocate different supervisors to different parts. So your role is the same, but if you were to go back to that section, you would actually say there are 2 parts of my employment history. In this role, I had these responsibilities. That was the person that I'm going to nominate as my supervisor, but also in that role, I had different responsibilities. These were those responsibilities, and I reported into somebody else for that section, for instance. Okay, so you may need more than one PER supervisor to verify all 3 years of your experience. Can be one, maybe you've been in the same role or had the same supervisor that you want to use for all your experience. It's no problem. Otherwise, if you've changed jobs, changed roles, you can definitely use more than one supervisor. Okay. Key is, again, this points to a good working relationship with your supervisor. Just make sure that you've gained permission from your supervisor or from the person that you want to be your supervisor before you submit their details. You do need their consent first, okay? Because your supervisor is going to receive an email asking them to review 1 or more sections of your application. They will then have to click on a link in an email. They then review your submission, so they will see it live on their side. They'll see exactly what you've written on their side. They'll review those sections allocated to them, assess whether or not your account is accurate and meet the requirements for membership. And then they will need to agree to the declaration or reject and ask for more information. So this can be a back and forth. It doesn't have to be you submit once and then it's done. So that your supervisor can reject, you can then update, and then you can resubmit for them to agree to your account.
It's quite a nice way of making sure you don't overstate your role in something. If you say this was the problem, I came up with this great idea. Your supervisor's like, wasn't you? It was me. Okay, so what happens if I submit and it's not approved?
Okay, so at that point, CIMA will contact you and they'll just ask you to resubmit. We have had a lot of experience with the CIMA Joburg office. They're very helpful. They also have years of experience of assisting students with their PER requirements. So they'll say to you, actually, well, this section, you don't use all these bullet points, or that section, can you give us some more detail of how this affected the organization? And they'll give you some good pointers to ask clarifying questions. Maybe they say, actually, this example that you've used isn't at the right level. Please, can you find something else and resubmit?
Cool.
Yeah.
And is there a lot of people who don't get to it? They do strategic case study. I often feel like people feel it's like a mountain to climb. Do people know, do they quickly do it? Do they usually do it like within the first year, or do they drag it out?
No, it depends. So if they already know that they have the experience, then there's usually not much holding them back. Especially with the new online application, it does make things a lot easier. I think on the previous version, where it was, you actually had to go in for an interview and it was a paper submission, and it felt a lot more daunting. That did used to take people a lot longer. But now, if you've got your 3 years experience and you're ready to roll, the minute strat case study is done, we actually find that people are doing it a bit quicker than they used to.
Okay. And then how much time do I have to do it?
So the submission deadline for any candidate is the 30th of September of the 4th year. Sounds like, you know, the days you select Easter. It's the 30th of submission of the 4th year after the year you sat and passed your final exam. So for instance, if you wrote and passed in February of 2023, you will have the 4th year after, so 2027, the 30th of September in that year. If you only wrote in November of that year, you still only have until the 30th of September 2027 to complete it. So just bearing in mind, there's not an exact, they don't say, oh, you have 3 years. It's this date of that year is when the submission deadline is.
Okay.
Yes.
And then if I just finish, I don't know, what do you do? Submit on your strategic case study. I just finished my strategic case study exam. Can I immediately send off my PER application?
Yes, you can. You can actually submit your application once you've passed management case study. So if you feel quite confident that the experience you've got up until management case study is sufficient for you to have a successful application, then by all means you can. You won't get the CGMA designation, no, until you've passed your strategic case study exam.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do I pay for my PER application?
Yeah, you pay online. So some are like, wow, this will pay. I know CIMA charges at every step, but there are people who have to actually sit and review your application. It's £180. You pay it online exactly the same way you pay anything else. I think it's when you go submit on your assessment, they'll ask you, it'll take you to a payment gateway. Yes.
Okay. I don't think I had a question, but oh yeah, all my questions. I had a question, but I'd forgotten now what it is. Can we